She says she wants you. She leans in close. Her eyes soften. Her lips tremble. You think it's love? But Nietzsche would have warned you. That isn't surrender. That's strategy. We live in an age that romanticizes desire, especially female desire. We assume that when she wants you, she's being vulnerable, pure, honest, emotional. But what if she isn't? What if female desire isn't the passive pull we imagine it to be, but an active, ancient weapon of control? Nietzsche saw through the illusion, and unlike today's therapists, influencers, and simps, he didn't flinch when he wrote the truth. Ah, women. They make the highs higher and the lows more frequent. This isn't about hating women. It's about finally listening to a man who wasn't fooled by surface-level affection. Nietzsche never pretended female love was innocent. He knew when a woman wants something, she uses desire. She doesn't fall into it. She aims with it. This is the story of how Nietzsche saw through the mask, and how every man who ignored him paid the price. Everything in woman is a riddle, Nietzsche wrote, and everything in woman has one solution. It is called pregnancy. Let's not sugarcoat it. Nietzsche didn't see women through rose-colored glasses. He wasn't drunk on love poems or romantic daydreams. He saw nature, and in nature, nothing is innocent, especially not desire. To Nietzsche, the female soul wasn't mysterious because it was magical. It was mysterious because it was biological, an ancient operating system fine-tuned for survival. And love? He didn't buy the fantasy. He saw love in women not as self-sacrifice, not as divine emotion, but as function. A woman's tenderness, her laughter, her longing, those weren't signs of emotional surrender. They were evolutionary tools. Woman's love involves injustice and blindness against everything she does not love. To Nietzsche, a woman's love is total, but only when it exists. If you are not her chosen one, you might as well be invisible. And if you are, that love comes with its own kind of blindness, a sacred obsession that feels like worship, but can turn cold in an instant. Because it's not rooted in abstract ideals, it's rooted in purpose. He wasn't trying to be cruel. He was trying to be honest in a world obsessed with comforting lies. In his book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche created a fictional prophet who declared, "Thou goest to woman. Do not forget thy whip." This line has haunted Nietzsche ever since, often called misogynistic, cruel, offensive. But let's unpack it. He's not literally saying, beat women. He's saying, don't walk into female desire unarmed. Don't expect it to be harmless. Don't assume you're the one in control, because you're not. The whip is symbolic, a reminder that what looks like softness is often wrapped around willpower. Desire, Nietzsche believed, is not passive in women. It's not weak, it's precise. Her smile? A test. Her submission? A strategy. Her love? A tool. And if you think that makes her evil, you've already lost. Because she's not playing good or evil. She's playing nature. And nature only plays to win. That's why Nietzsche treated women not as evil temptresses or sacred angels, but as forces of instinct. You don't romanticize lightning. You don't argue with fire. You understand it, or you burn. Her great art is the lie. Her highest concern is mere appearance and beauty, beyond good and evil. When a woman wants you, most men think, finally she's opening up. She's letting herself fall. But Nietzsche didn't see it like that. He didn't see female desire as a loss of control. He saw it as a move. Desire wasn't surrender. It was a play. And the most dangerous part? She might not even know she's doing it. It's instinct. She doesn't try to manipulate. She is the manipulation. Nietzsche believed women are biologically wired to wield desire as a selective weapon, not because they're cruel, because they're designed to survive. The modern man has been taught to see desire as a shared spark, two souls colliding in mutual need. But Nietzsche warned, the woman's fire isn't burning for you. It's burning for security, advantage, selection. He watched men fall in love with women's emotions, and he saw those same women use emotion as currency. In revenge and in love, woman is more barbaric than man, says Nietzsche in Beyond Good and Evil. We're told female sexuality is passive, that women give themselves to men. But he flips it. No, they bait, they select, they filter. And what looks like surrender is often a velvet trap. It's not a trick. It's a strategy so old it feels like truth. Think about it. Men show desire through action. Women show desire through permission, through carefully designed signals that invite, seduce, and bind. And once you're in, she has you. Not through chains, through need. And here's the cruel irony. The more you feel desired, the more likely you are to let your guard down, to open up, to give more, to invest. And she knows. On some level, she always knows. That's not bitterness. That's biology. Nietzsche wasn't insulting women when he said, when a woman has scholarly inclinations, something is usually wrong with her sexuality. He wasn't saying women are stupid. He was saying the true female power lies not in logic, but in instinct. Desire for women isn't a conversation, it's a test, and most men fail it. Because when she touches your hand, you feel chosen. But when she lets you touch hers, that's when she's already in control. You don't take her. She allows herself to be taken. And if you mistake that allowance for love, you've already lost the game. You didn't love her. You loved the reflection of your own soul inside her eyes. This is where Nietzsche's warning gets darker, because it's not just about women being strategic. It's about men being blind. You think you fell in love with her, but you didn't. You fell in love with your idea of her, the goddess you imagined, the angel you projected, the salvation you wanted. And this is where Carl Jung picks up Nietzsche's thread, with the concept of the anima. The anima is the unconscious feminine within every man. She's the soul image, the inner woman, the dream of wholeness. She's tenderness, mystery, chaos, beauty, all the things men crave but don't fully understand. So what happens? You meet a real woman, and suddenly you see the anima in her. You think she's deep. You think she gets you. You think she's not like the others. But in truth, you're not seeing her at all. You're seeing your own spiritual hunger. And she just happened to stand in front of it. Nietzsche didn't use the word anima, but he understood the trap. The man who fights too long against dragons becomes one. And if you gaze into the abyss gazes back. Substitute woman for abyss, and the message becomes terrifyingly clear. You projected your soul onto her face, and then she left. And now, you're not just heartbroken. You feel like a piece of you died, because it did. You gave it to an illusion. Nietzsche saw this over and over. Men being destroyed not by women, but by their own fantasies of women. You wanted her to be pure. You needed her to be loyal. You begged her to be your one safe place. But what you actually needed was to wake up. Because what you saw in her wasn't who she is. It was who you hoped she would be. And this is why betrayal hits men so hard. It's not just a breakup. It's a collapse of meaning. You thought she was your future. Turns out she was just the mirror. And the reflection was all yours. So ask yourself, Did she betray you? Or did you betray yourself by refusing to see what was really there? He thought he had her, but she had him from the moment he chased. Nietzsche didn't see women as powerless. In fact, he saw them as dangerously powerful, just not in the way men are. Men dominate by force. Women dominate by influence. And the battlefield? Desire. A woman doesn't need to raise her voice. She doesn't need a throne or a sword. All she needs is your hunger for her, and she can make you dance like a puppet. Nietzsche saw this clearly. He wasn't enchanted by femininity. He saw it as a form of spiritual warfare. Woman wants to be independent. That is why she begins to enlighten men about woman as such. This is one of the worst developments of the general uglifying of Europe. He wasn't mocking independence. He was observing how, in seeking power, women don't mimic men. They use what they've always used: selection, approval, and access. A woman doesn't have to beg for power. She grants you access to it, just enough to keep you chasing. And then she watches what you'll do to keep it. That's the hidden contract of seduction. Every look, every gesture, every maybe is an offer laced with dominance. And Nietzsche understood. The more you want her, the more you abandon yourself. You start giving, proving, performing, competing. You think you're seducing her, but really, you're submitting. Nietzsche even wrote that woman's deepest joys are obedience and domination in disguise. Not domination by cruelty, but by allowance. You think she gave herself to you, but she allowed you to think that. Because once you believe you've won her, you'll do anything not to lose her. It's not about evil, it's about design. Women don't dominate with violence. They dominate by making themselves the prize. They pull you in, not with threats, but with potential. You see what could be, the sex, the intimacy, the meaning, and you chase that. But in doing so, you give her the upper hand. You hand her the reins. Not because she asked, but because you wanted to be chosen so badly. You gave up the one thing that made you powerful, your center. And she felt it. Not consciously, but instinctively. Because she's not analyzing you. She's sensing you. And once she feels you've been conquered, the desire fades. Not hers, yours. Because what once felt like a chase now feels like a cage. And Nietzsche warned us, if you mistake a test for love and approval for truth, you'll find yourself trapped in a game you never understood. You ignored the warning, but now you're bleeding. Nietzsche wasn't trying to win hearts. He wasn't pandering to audiences. He wrote what others were too scared to say. Female desire isn't always love. It can be a form of domination. But instead of listening, the world laughed. They called him a misogynist, a lonely man, a bitter thinker who couldn't get laid. But maybe, just maybe, he saw something we didn't want to admit. Because look around, how many men have been broken by the very thing they thought would save them? How many gave their soul to a woman who wanted them until she didn't? How many sacrificed everything only to be discarded without explanation? And yet, they still believe the next one will be different. Why? Because no one ever told them what Nietzsche tried to scream. That desire is not always connection. That a woman's yes doesn't mean forever. That love is not unconditional. It's instinctual. The greatest pain is not rejection. It's the realization that you were never seen, only used. Nietzsche's writing wasn't venom. It was medicine, bitter and burning, but necessary. He wasn't angry that women had power. He was disturbed that men refused to see it and kept throwing themselves off cliffs in the name of romance. We are trained to believe in fairy tales. We grow up thinking that love is pure, that if a woman desires you, she's yours. But Nietzsche knew, you are only hers for as long as you serve her nature. The moment you stop, the moment your strength fades, your value weakens, or your mystery dissolves, the desire shifts. Not because she's cruel, because that's how desire works. And Nietzsche didn't want men to hate women for this. He wanted them to wake up to reality, to see that if you build your identity on being wanted, you'll be destroyed the moment you're not, to realize that falling in love with her without understanding your own shadow, your own anima, your own projections, is suicide in slow motion. The tragedy isn't that women are deceptive. It's that men refuse to stop deceiving themselves. You weren't betrayed because she changed. You were betrayed because you thought she never would. Nietzsche tried to tell us, stop expecting softness from power. Stop expecting eternal love from something built on nature. Ah, women, they make the highs higher and the lows more frequent. The warning was never meant to divide men and women. It was meant to destroy the illusions between them. But no one listened. Now they listen to heartbreak playlists. Now they cry on podcasts. Now they scroll TikTok looking for red flags because they ignored the deepest one of all. Desire isn't a promise. It's a test. And if you don't know that, you'll keep failing.